Hey guys, today I want to focus on this Androxus. He's actually on the enemy team for this game, but I wanted to understand how he was able to get 20 kills and 11 assists in a relatively short period of time. So to do this, we're going to use a concept called death tracking. So this is where you go and do a video review and you put each of your deaths into a category based on its cause. So those four categories are normally either positioning, game sense, mechanics, or what are called worthwhile deaths, but in this case look a lot more like suicides. It's obviously quite a subjective process, so feel free to disagree, particularly as I don't know what was going through the heads of each of the players that he kills when it happens. Some of these deaths come quite quickly, so there's not a huge amount of analysis on them. But with that in mind, and with all that said, let's get into the game. So we're just going to put this Androxus footage in the bottom corner so that we can see each of his targets' perspective as well. We're going to start off following this Victor, so you can see a couple of the team head low and to point, and the Victor and the Torvald head up here. Not sure if he's noticed the buck just in the bottom corner, but when the Androxus starts attacking from the right hand side and he turns on him, it's actually the buck that gets the kill from behind, so I'm putting this one down to game sense. Now here this Grover's very out in the open as he's being attacked. He does try to get into cover, but then he dukes back, but he can't get away. So I'm putting this one down to positioning. And this death for Victor is positioning as well. So he gets split, so there's enemies on both sides of him, making it difficult for him to get away anywhere safe. If he'd stayed a bit further back, he could have gone back into the volcano side house and then got away safely, possibly avoiding that death. Now it's a little bit of time until these next deaths come up. I've put these down to game sense, but you could argue that these are worthwhile or suicide deaths because they're trying to prevent the team getting on point. And then here, this Victor death is another positioning issue. So he's too far pushed up, doesn't retreat quickly enough, and so the Androxus is able to catch up with him and kill him. This Grover death is a game sense issue. So there's a few times in this video where you'll see the Andro ult and there isn't a quick enough reaction. So when you hear the voice line from an Androxus activating his ultimate, you want to retreat into cover as quickly as possible. Grover doesn't hear, and so it ends up with him getting killed. And so this Khan death is actually a little way away as the team manages to stabilize for a bit here. So despite him getting low, this buck actually doesn't get the kill. One thing that is worth pointing out is a lot of the team falls back to deal with one buck, leaving the Realm up by himself, kind of holding the payload, which actually doesn't go as badly as you might expect. So what actually causes the death, which is coming up, is a game sense issue. So he pushes up a bit here, but he's got enough health to get back. But what he doesn't realise is there's a Vivian behind him on his left, and that softens him up enough for the Androxus to get the finishing kill. Death is a game sense issue as well, so he takes damage and correctly retreats to somewhere he thinks is safe, but then the Androxus does what a good flank should, comes up over the top and delivers the finishing blow. And then this Torvald death is the start of a whole run of suicide or worthwhile deaths. So I'm not going to go through each one individually, but you can see that the payload is very close to the finish, and so the team keeps diving in to try to stop it getting any further. There's a couple of points on this not directly linked to deaths that I think are worth pointing out. So firstly, you'll notice quite a few ultimates being fired in what is probably a lost situation. So there's a Victor ult there. At another point, there's a Grover ult coming out and probably a few others. Also, you may have just seen that the Barrack got within one shot of dying. The Khan almost finished him off. He put up his shield, which stopped the Khan from getting the kill, and the round wasn't aware of him. There's a Torvald ult here, which would have actually worked if he could have hit that 0 seconds exactly. But he goes a little bit early, which gives the enemy team time to get back on the point, and so trigger overtime. And once overtime's triggered, barring something miraculous at this stage, I think the team is always outnumbered. And so even though they've got significant spawn advantage, because they're not getting any kills, they can't take advantage of that. The couple get low, Ceres nearly goes down here, and to be fair, the enemy team is using ults as well to try and force it through. But as I say, there's no real hope, and so while these are often considered good deaths, because they stop you losing, at some point you're just giving the enemy team credits. And so we go on to round 2. So this Grover death I'm putting down to game sense as well. It's similar to before, where there's an Androxus ult and not enough of a reaction. And because the team is grouped up, that also quite directly contributes to this Torvald death. Although I think possibly if he'd shot rather than silenced, he might have been able to get the kill. This is a positioning death here, so the victor's in the back line. And then here we have another series of positioning, or possibly, if you're generous, worthwhile deaths. So the enemy team is at 87-90%, and they're trying to stop them capping, which is why they go into the situation knowing they're going to die, but in an attempt to slow down the opposition. However, I don't think that requires 3 of them to be stood on point without cover, just soaking up firepower. So this is a positioning death from the round. So he exposed himself to the whole enemy team's fire and trying to get this Androxus, and that results in his death. And then the realm is back for more. So I'm calling this one mechanics because I think this is a winnable duel. If you watch the realm screen, he misses most of his shots, so he doesn't generate the soul armor he needs, and then he tries to dash too late. These next 3 Torvald, Grover and Khan deaths I've all put down to positioning. So all 3 of them are stood out in the open, not making any use of cover, and so when the enemy team comes around the corner, they all go down in pretty quick succession. We'll just watch the round death from here, because it doesn't take very long, and we're back into suicide death, so he goes into that knowing he's going to die, but otherwise they lose, and the victor does much the same. So what are the main takeaways from this? Well, 2 basic positioning points. Make sure you're making use of cover and not wide peeking unnecessarily. And make sure you know your safe escape route if things go against you that doesn't go past the enemy team and doesn't end up in you being surrounded. And if you hear the enemy ultimate start going off, try and get the hell out of there. On which note, I'm going to get the hell out of here. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.